Here we go with game two of FaZe Space versus Guini in the finals of the Q2 2021 Beginners Tag Tournament. Game one went to FaZe Space when he played as Black. This time, Guini's playing as Black, FaZe Space playing as White. We will be jumping right in here as soon as they play their first moves. That last game was a marathon, as Unsweet previously said, and joining me today is Unsweet in the commentary box.
Hello, yes, I am still here even after that hour game. That is commitment to you folks.
And we're seeing the same mirrored opening that we talked about in the openings video of TAC University. And a very similar start to last game, playing that black capstone here right off to the side, very, very similar to what we normally see, but instead we're seeing that white deviation off to the side. And that's to maintain that momentum going in the horizontal direction after black cuts everything off in the vertical. White now playing a pretty strong capstone here that can't be isolated. It's a pretty good spot. It follows a lot of the guidelines of the capstones video in TAC University. This is where we're likely going to see that white capstone come down onto C4 to keep itself in the game.
Simon, what are your thoughts about the horizontal continuation being E2 as opposed to C2 for white, moving towards black's capstone rather than away from?
So I would prefer E1 to F2 here if I wanted to continue the horizontal. But if I wanted to do it C2, I like that. I like C2 because it would. Yeah, I think I like C2 the best. F2 is okay because then it also can go for a vertical threat as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you could play that. Looks like they're continuing to push. This time, white playing for that horizontal threat. Now black cutting off with flat placements. White now looks to be more on the defensive here. Although this big stack here, white's going to want to capture that at some point. I can see white coming down with this stack down onto C3, ready to capture this. But maybe not quite yet. Black does have momentum right now, but it's momentum that can be very easily shut down.
Yeah, I would like to see black start expanding their horizons a little bit because they might find themselves isolated from their cap pretty soon if they don't start getting things going.
I can definitely see that happening, yeah. And while black does have momentum, and like I said, it can be cut off pretty easily, white's momentum can't be cut off too quickly. And if you're unfamiliar with what momentum is, you can check out the TAC University video on momentum, which is a pretty integral piece of strategicness, strategy, tactics. It's important in TAC. And so we do see black make that tack threat here. I think that's the first tack threat of the game. And white immediately cuts that off with the capstone. Now this does two things, cuts off the threat and threatens this capstone, or this big stack that black immediately captures with the capstone to keep the white capstone from getting. Whew. And now white continues making their own horizontal threat, and black bringing that whole stack down to cut all of that off. That's actually pretty solid. A pretty solid exchange there for black. I like where that ended up, but that's a lot of liabilities here.
Do
But
you
he
think
does have
black's
that
going to
hard
start finding
capstone.
themselves in trouble?
I would not be surprised to see white play at C1 here. And
That's the move I like,
yeah,
definitely.
well, it does a few things. The reason for it is C1 works towards this horizontal threat yet again, but it also starts building towards a vertical threat for white. And so it does two different things for white, and I feel like that's where you want to focus your attention, is being able to do different threats at the same time. And he looks like he does drop that C1 flat. Black ready to cut off any sort of horizontal threat that white goes for by placing a d1. This is where I think we'll likely see white play either here at c4 or maybe even at d3. But I think c4 is a little more likely at this point.
I like d3 a little bit better. I agree that c4 is possibly likely, but I like to build, I'd like to see him building around and kind of forcing the capstone to make a decision on which threat they're going to cut off. But we're seeing c4, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even e3 would have been pretty nice there too, because like you said, it would force this capstone to think about which threat to cut off.
Yeah, I definitely would have liked to see d3, and then if you have some sort of the problem possibly with e3 is that the wall on d3 can kind of move both ways, and then you might find yourself having to make a decision there. But
It's
with
true.
if you place on d3, then any wall and you could start still building upwards, and you're not really affected by it. But yeah, black's got some decisions here for sure.
They're both pretty even on time. And white's got black's got a few more reserves here. But it's not going to come into play for quite some time. Black does have that hard capstone. Hard capstone, another term we talked about in the terminology video, Attack University. Hard capstone meaning a capstone that is directly on top of a friendly flat, and that allows it to crush walls while still leaving behind a friendly flat stone. So it looks like black trying to cut things off with just dropping a flat up here to kind of interrupt what white's building. White's fine just building up here at c6 instead to just come around. Probably going to play over here at d5 next, maybe b5, to kind of work towards just making that capture, continuing making those threats and forcing moves out of black. That's a big part of attack, is playing flats, making threats to force your opponent to make subpar moves. Typically, in games, those subpar moves will be in terms of flat count differential, and they'll likely be forcing your opponent to make a poor move that allows you to advance your flat count and take theirs down. And flat count differential is talked about in our flat count differential video of Attack University. Black dropping a wall here, ready to really just cut off all that vertical stuff that white's building towards. This is where I think we might see that d3 placement from white. No, instead we're seeing b4. And this is, I guess, to go around to the left, but I don't see that being as strong here. I think I would have liked d3 a lot more.
Yeah, I think both players need to be careful here, because if black doesn't start making their own threats, then if white starts building along 6, for example, right. So seeing b6 here was to me the best move, because now I think white's starting to plan for when can I smash this wall and have black not recover from it, since there's no horizontal threat for black moving across. You could leave those two captives there. Obviously, it's not exactly doable yet, but you could see kind of the wheels churning here.
Yeah, I think we saw that in the previous game. We saw that Guini, last time playing as white, played a lot of defensive moves, played a lot of positioning, but didn't go for many threats for a very long time. And by the time they finally did, it was kind of too late. And so we might be seeing that same thing here playing as black, which unfortunately, black, you're at a slight disadvantage because white automatically gets sort of that momentum bonus from the very beginning. And again, if, however, black does win this game, Guini taking game two, that would mean they split the games 1-1. And the official ruling on what happens in the finals when it's 1-1 is they will play pairs of blitz games of alternate colors, just like they're playing now, but this time with blitz games, meaning a timer of 3 minutes with a 5 second increment, and they will play until a winner is decided, which means whoever wins 2 games in a set. And I don't think they will be playing those tonight, if it does come to that, because I think it's pretty late for Guini particularly. I know that I'm pretty sure Phase Space is in Spain, if I'm not mistaken, and Guini is in Korea. So time differences, they can be a pain for sure. But we do see this move here from Black going B3 plus, which I find interesting because it's this flat on flat capture, but it is guarded by this wall here. So White's just saying, all right, fine, I'll just go around and go for this horizontal road threat up in this upper half of the board where you can't touch me with your capstone or your walls.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to see Black cut that off right away. But you're building towards a horizontal road threat both at the bottom and the top of the board. So I think that um, Black wants to play here, immediately stop with something like E6. I think D3 is a crucial square. I really do.
Definitely. There's that E6, just like you predicted.
Yeah, and now I think this is most crucial move of the game so far for White is where they're going to choose to.
Just putting pressure on that horizontal thread, I think, in the top.
Yeah, and I think you've got to be careful now with E3 and E4 of trying to build in both directions here.
Now we're gonna see White play at F6. That makes the most sense, at least.
I'd like to see E4 here, honestly. But yeah, I realize that that's kind of the more forcing move right now is playing at F6.
Now, I'm interested to see if we'll see F5 come left or E6 come right. Because those are the most sort of obvious moves that I see right here, but we could see something else. F5 comes left. White dropping the wall, ready to capture that stack. And honestly, I'm not mad about that move. I think that's a solid move.
Yeah, I like the play. I think White could have been a little bit more aggressive before that with trying to build in both directions.
Hmm.
But I think now that's a fine play for sure.
Yeah, I can see some things. Now, I think that once this wall comes up onto e5, White could decide to play a flat at d3 finally, and then decide how to play it. Because could play for a vertical threat, moving this wall over to the left, make a great flat count move. Could also start to play off here onto the right at e3 to go for this horizontal threat. So there's a lot of different options that White has from this point. Black now dropping this wall, I think gonna bring it up on their own flat at d5, I think was their idea.
Hmm.
To keep white from making that positive flat count differential move. And let's take a look at the time also. 14 minutes on the clock for face space, not taking hardly any time at all. 24 moves in with a 15-minute plus 10-second increment. Guini down below 9 minutes at 8.5 minutes here. So taking a lot more time. Just about 6 minutes between the two of them. Guini definitely pressured pretty hard in this game. Was pressured pretty hard in the previous game as well. But we did see a lot of blunders in the end from face space after dominating the game for most of it. And we saw some blunders, of course, from Guini as well. I mean, we expect blunders in these games because, again, they're played with time controls, and this is a beginner's tournament. We should probably be seeing more blunders than we have been seeing. But these players have been pretty solid.
Yeah, and I think all of the blunders have mainly been defense based.
Yeah.
They've been, I want to make sure that I'm not making a blunder later, so I'm going to play maybe not so aggressive of a move now, and that kind of resulted in a little bit of a loss of initiative and the other person getting back in the game.
We do see white or black blocking this drawbridge move here from white, trying to block that road. Does successfully block it. But that's 3 walls on the board currently for black. We saw Guini play a lot of walls in the previous game as white. Played, I think, 5 walls in that game. And so we're seeing a trend here, playing lots of walls. White now building over here at b3. Interesting. Maybe potentially going for that vertical threat again? Or
Yeah, I
going...
like this move fine. I mean, right now, I would have preferred something like E3 perhaps, but I think that the move's fine. I think that white sees that black has not really many attacking chances right now unless they do something inexplicable. But they're seeing a way to just kind of build up that side of the board.
Yeah, it looks like black wants to make some sort of smash move with the capstone to make a threat in the horizontal direction here. And so right now, because the F4 placement, that's why I think about it. Because if black does come up and toss this smash on d4, that would be attack threat. Using that renewed hard capstone to come left onto c4, that would be a road. So I think that's what black is trying to set up here, and white may be realizing that right about now. Tricky
Yeah,
threats.
I think there are plenty of ways to deal with it. We'll see how white's going to choose to do that.
Mm-hmm. Now black can't make that move because it would result in a road for white. So white decided, and this is a great little tip for new players out there. You don't always have to block the road. You can instead make your own threat to make it so the move they were going to make makes them lose. So black wanted to come up here and smash this wall. Instead, white says, all right, fine. I will make a threat here that if you move your capstone, you lose. So strong move there from white. I like that. pinning the capstone where it is. Okay, black now made this capture c5 to the left because black wants to play at c5 next and then make the smash for the win and the road. White is keen, understands what black's going for, decides to drop that wall there at c5, knowing they can afford to drop that wall and interrupt black's plans. This wall actually does two things. Interrupts black's road threat, also allows white to capture over onto b5 and liberate some captives.
Yeah, I think it's a fine play. I think it's good from white, first of all, to see what black's planning, because really, if you look at the bottom of the board, black doesn't really have much going on. And so you look up and you see he's creating kind of a singular threat there. So if you can make a move that's both attacking and defensive, then that's great.
Black, I guess, trying to come to terms with the fact that his plans are completely destroyed and has to come up with some other avenue of attack. I think maybe he might play over there at a6. And the reason I say that is because that could be building towards a vertical tag threat where black throws the capstone to the left. And it's something that he probably wasn't looking at initially. Probably only looking at this horizontal threat. But that vertical threat is partially there.
Yeah, and you never know. You could end up with something sneaky there, right? A little bit more cautious.
Definitely a bit more cautious. White now playing up at a6 to keep black from doing it, I guess. Interesting that he didn't use c5 to capture onto b5 there. Instead, he uses that wall to come down. Now he's ready to make that move. So wall coming down interrupts this threat from white, so he can now make that smash for the threat. But then white immediately came over onto b5 so they can interrupt that threat with the wall themselves. Solid plays.
Yeah, I think black's got to be a little bit cautious here. They have a singular threat, and meanwhile white's kind of building in both directions. So you don't want to smash it, have white recover, and then you realize that you've left this white stack on d3 with a capstone next to it, and end up fighting for that instead.
Would be risky. Definitely very risky. I would probably go for it because I tend not to think things through very well. But yeah, that is a thing. I think the more cautious and experienced players probably wouldn't go for it right away. We do see black now playing up here at c5 to kind of continue that that line, but not go for it right away.
Yeah, the problem with this kind of defensive streak that these players are on a little bit is that black's working so hard throwing these walls up and getting that defense going. I mean, they find themselves down four flats maybe at the moment, and you're going to find that everyone's blocking each other's threats, and now how are you going to win? You're going to end up throwing stacks around, scrambling for flat count moves.
Yeah, I see white taking his time here. Does renew that pin on that black capstone. I don't know about that move, though. Don't know about that move. I was thinking about that capture or playing at a2. But now black has that wall on b1 that wants to capture over onto a1 and liberate that black captive. I think black can do some damage from this position. An interesting play from white by playing at a2, because it gives black an opportunity to make another positive flat count differential move.
Yeah, I do understand why he played there, because I think if you let black have a2, that's it's not devastating, but it's definitely it's where I would have played if I was black. And so I think that um, we'll see how Guini chooses to deal with it. Right?
Does make the capture, able to liberate that captive underneath on a1. Ooh, but now he's got a +3 move available. But if he does take that +3 move, he's got that big juicy stack with 4 white flats in it, ready to be smashed by that white capstone. So it's probably something, a bit of a bait by playing here at b1 from white, trying to get that wall stack to move right so the capstone can smash it.
Yeah, I'd like to see Guini just go for some of these quieter moves, e3, a d3, and try to build towards something with that a1 wall later, like maybe a discovered threat by moving that wall. But and you're giving yourself more equity to smash that wall on d4 later if you're building towards something in both directions, which I think now you've gotten yourself a little bit more opportunity to do something like that, whereas a few moves ago you had just a long 4. That was all you had.
Yeah. Yeah, I think b3 is actually a really solid move here for black, but again, black's down to 3.5 minutes on the clock, and white has 10 minutes. So, I'm gonna see some time pressure here pretty soon. Black,
I like that move.
black playing at e3 is good. I like that. And I think he's setting himself up to the point where if he makes this positive flat count differential move, because like I think d3 is coming up next. If he makes this move with a1, moving it to the right, white wants to smash that wall and get that big juicy stack. But if he does that after d3 has been played, that leads to a win for black. And so black is trying to I think black is trying to set that up so he can bait the smash and get the win because of it. And white saw right through it and plays the wall at d3. Very smart play. Black looks to be continuing that same line of thought by playing over at f2. Might be taking e3 down onto e2 to make that same play happen by making that positive flat count differential move there. And if I haven't plugged it already, that is explained in the flat count differential video on TAC University. We do see that wall finally move down onto b4 from white.
Yeah, I think white was realizing that black was making up ground and flat differential there.
And now that that wall is moved down, it's ready to cut off anything with a really strong flat count differential move. If black plays at b3, boom, that wall comes down, makes a +3 move. So that would be pretty devastating for black, which is why you saw him move this stack over instead of making that big toss, because he knows it's just going to get interrupted anyway. b3 played from white. Now, okay, no tack threat. Yes, there is a tack threat. That's a tack threat from white. White moving 3 b4 left would be a road for white. Tough to see, though, because of all the walls and capstones that are involved with this road. But that is definitely a road that black needs to stop. And they can stop that by capturing up, capturing over onto c2, onto c1, onto b5. All of those will at least delay it. And black decides to come over with that capstone to stop that. All right. That big stack over there onto c2 now for black. I don't know how much good that does, though. I don't see what he can do with that. Black has a good amount of flats on the board, but none of them are really cohesive or doing anything for him. White's flats have a little bit more purpose to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot now that d2 has been covered up. Black was banking on being able to get that square, and although that move before really doesn't open up a ton for him unless he got d2, I think is still the best move in terms of longer term fix to the discovered road there, because really pretty much every other threat would have been renewed. But it doesn't necessarily lead to any particular offense for black.
Yeah, and white has 2 reserves left, and the board is almost completely filled. So it doesn't look too promising. Let's take a look at the quick count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 flats for white, I believe, or 12. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for black. Yeah, I don't see this going anywhere for black. I think white just needs to play those last 2 flats, and that's the game. Because white has positive flat count differential moves at the ready, and black has none. So just playing the flats out from this point, and probably from a couple moves ago, would give him the win. But I mean, maybe they want to play another 60-move game like they did last game. So they might be going for that.
I'm not sure about f3 here. Would have liked to see something like d3, but that's okay. I mean, black's trying to get their moves in wherever they can.
I think black played it f3 instead of d3 because he knows that d3 opens up a positive flat count differential move, and he wants to get his flats in.
To me, that's what I want. I want him to throw that wall afterwards and then get in that space, essentially not particularly like it is now, because it's quite a juicy stack he's giving up. But
now it's the win for white. White just has to play his last reserve, and boom, game's over. White wins by flats. I think white's probably taking a little bit of time right now to count, make sure. 15 to 12. White takes it. FaZe Space is our winner and takes the whole shebang trophy prize. There's a prize to this tournament. I'm sure there is, and it's probably pretty good.
$25,000 is the prize.
I think you're off on that one by a little bit. He gets first pick between the Wolf and Hawk metal capstones or the TAC travel set from the World Builders Market. So
both valued at $26,000.
Slightly less than that, I think. Slightly less. But second place, which would be Gwini in this case, gets the remaining pick. So first place gets to pick between those two. Second place gets whatever's left over. So well played to both players, especially well played to FaZe Space. Congratulations. You are now the winner of the Q2 2021 Beginner TAC Tournament. And I guess you are no longer allowed to participate in any of the beginner tournaments, and I believe the same goes for Guidi and probably for Alf as well. So, well played, all of you. Excellent games, a lot of fun to watch. We did see some pretty long ones. I mean, 40 moves on this one and 60 moves on the previous one. That's a lot of tack. It's a lot of tack. It's an hour and 40 minutes of tack, actually. So for just today, and if you're watching this on YouTube, it's not an hour and 40 straight, but recording. So thank you, Unsweet, for joining me for the commentary as well.
Of course, congrats to both players. It was well played for a beginner tournament. Things were very thought through. You didn't want to make any rash mistakes. And I think both players showed a lot of poise in that regard.
Definitely. I think we're going to see a lot from both these players in the future. As long as they keep playing, I think we could see them up in the top 10 someday. Not outside of the realm of possibility. They'll probably take my spot. That is all for today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all of the TAC resources that are out there, including but not limited to the TAC subreddit, my channel for other videos like TAC University and learning about the game, playtac.com, how you can play online with other folks, but especially the Discord server, which is the community hub for all of TAC. And that is where you can find people to play with online. You can play with them asynchronously straight through Discord. And if you're unfamiliar with Discord, that is a text and audio chat service. And it is completely free. You don't even have to download anything. It'll be right through your web application, or it can also be a mobile application as well. Be sure to check that out. It is fantastic. It is the best place to talk to everybody about TAC, and it's how we organize all these tournaments. So that is it. Again, thanks for watching. And until next time, have a great day and happy TAC.